2023 Bill number 9 of 2022 be read the first time.
Amended.
The bill second reading.
No, photo. Mr. Speaker, sir, I move that the appropriation 2022-2023 Bill number 9 of 2022 be read a second time. I come before this August Assembly for the third budget of this mandate. As time goes by, as crises emerge, and as hope blossoms, we are shaping history together. Let us take a moment to reflect on what happened just 2 years back when our lives were shattered. Faced with the abyss of the unknown, we should have sunk. But our people have pulled together, adapting themselves in a spirit of exemplary Mauritian unity. With strength and pride, we showed greatness. By refusing to go down, Mauritians have stood out in the face of adversity. For this, we would like to say thank you. Thank you for your trust. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for your resilience. Mr. Speaker, sir, we have experienced a never imagined before contraction in our GDP of 15% in 2020. Yet today, we are in a much better shape. This government, under the guidance of the Honorable Prime Minister, did not hesitate to deploy a historic response of 32% of GDP for the population. As a fair and caring government, our response would only be one of solidarity. It is all about people, and people above all, because solidarity is efficiency. To recall, this government has introduced the wage assistance scheme and the self-employed assistance scheme, which benefited 542,000 workers and self-employed to preserve employment, representing 27.3 billion rupees. Paid the pension at 9,000 rupees to some 302,000 beneficiaries to preserve the purchasing power of the elderly and the vulnerable. Subsidized essential products to the tune of 5.2 billion rupees. Increased the minimum wage from 10,200 rupees to 11,075 rupees. Paid the salary compensation of employees of SMEs. Provided a moratorium on the repayment of capital on loans, and allocated 100 billion of rupees to support businesses. Our response package has enabled us to avoid massive layoff of 100,000 people, economic bankruptcy, and social chaos. We have wisely leveraged on our inherent strength to protect our socio-economic structure and provide the momentum for our recovery. Today, the results are unquestionable. Mr. Speaker, sir, according to IMF forecast, our GDPs will exceed its pre-pandemic level, reaching 520 billion rupees by 2022, compared to 465 billion rupees in 2021. Unemployment is expected to go down to 7.8% from 9.1% a year ago. Exports of goods and services will reach 169 billion rupees from 141 billion rupees in 2021. The investment rate will increase to 21.2% of GDP from 19.2% in 2021. Foreign direct investment will exceed 20 billion rupees from 15.4 billion rupees last year. Tourist arrivals will reach 1 million in 2022 from 179,780 in 2021. Public sector debt will be on a downward trend from 96.1% in June 2021 to 87.4% in June 2022. Government debt will fall from 87.1% in June 2021 to 77.3% in June 2022. These figures prove our economic policies right, and we will continue in this direction. Mr. Speaker, sir, supply chain disruptions, the war in Ukraine, and the recent lockdowns in China are impacting prices globally. The Bank of Mauritius expects inflation to be at 8.6% in 2022, 3/4 of which are due to our exposure to global shocks. These inflationary pressures require us to act promptly. To anchor inflation expectations, the Monetary Policy Committee of the Bank of Mauritius has increased the key repo rate cumulatively by 40 basis points since March this year. On our side, we are deploying appropriate and unprecedented policies to support the purchasing power of Mauritians. Thus, this budget is about strengthening our economic growth and resilience to future shocks, accelerating our transition to a sustainable and inclusive development model, and investing in our people. Mr. Speaker, sir, Budget 22-23 is written with the people, for the people. It is only with a stronger economic growth that will drive our future. With more jobs, higher skill, higher production, greater investment, lower inflation, and lower debt. To this end, Maurice Strategy, an economic research and planning bureau to formulate socio-economic policies, will be set up. Mr. Speaker, sir, COVID-19 and the conflict in Ukraine are powerful reminders that self-sufficiency is vital. No one would have conceived that in the 21st century, the world would be apprehensive of food supply shortages. For us as a nation, producing more is no longer just an option. Today, we rely on imports for more than 75% of our food requirements. It is a market worth 77 billion rupees, representing 8% of GDP. High levels of self-sufficiency not only mean greater food security, but also more investment, more jobs, and higher growth. We incite planters to boost local production of fruits and vegetables by providing a grant of 50% up to a maximum of 500,000 rupees for the purchase of a sheltered farm for hydroponics, and extending it for the purchase of a second sheltered farm. Increase the subsidy on onion, potato, garlic, and bean seeds sold by the Agricultural Marketing Board from 50% to 75%, and introduce a minimum guaranteed price for planters of 33,000 rupees per ton of onions, 38,000 rupees per ton of potatoes, and 50,000 rupees per ton for beans. encourage them to bring back abandoned land under cultivation through a crop replantation fund at the DBM at an annual preferential rate of 2.5%. Mr. Speaker, sir, the Development Bank of Mauritius will invest in 2 food security clusters at a cost of 200 million rupees each, namely an agro-processing park over an area of 5,000 square meters at Anyeta, and a fruit processing cluster at Rivière-du-Rempart with units of up to 100 square meters for some 50 SMEs. To further support fruit and flower growers, will provide a grant of 50% up to a maximum of 500,000 rupees for the setting up of fruit ripening facilities, and a maximum grant of 100,000 rupees for procurement of planting materials. To accelerate the re-emergence of the tea sector, the winter allowance is being increased from 1.50 rupee to 2 rupees per kilogram. 6 million rupees is being provided to rehabilitate roads and build appropriate drainage systems in tea plantations at Nouvelle-France, Grand Bois and Bois Chéri, and 10,000 tea plantlets will be provided at a subsidized cost of 10 rupees per unit. We also have the potential to reduce our dependency on import of honey, which accounts for 90% of our consumption. In this respect, a subsidy of 500 rupees per bee queen will be provided to beekeepers up to a maximum of 10 queens, and a one-off grant of 150,000 rupees per beekeeper will be provided to secure the beekeeping zones. AMB will import beeswax in bulk and resell to beekeepers at an affordable price. The scheme for acquisition of CCTV camera will be extended to bee honey producers, and new melliferous plants will be introduced to enable year-round honey production. Mr. Speaker, sir, will support our planters in the face of a surge in prices of fertilizers and seeds. Will help them transition to locally produced and sustainable inputs. 75 million rupees is being provided to registered planters to cover 50% of their cost of fertilizers. A subsidy of 75% will be provided on the purchase of liquid fertilizers, biofertilizers, and compost produced by cooperatives. Planters and cooperatives will be eligible to a subsidy of 50% up to a maximum of 500,000 rupees on the purchase of equipment for composting, and a micro-propagation and seed production scheme is being introduced, whereby seed producers will benefit from a grant of 50% of their cost up to a maximum of 500,000 rupees. We also need to support the transformation of the sector through mechanization, innovation, and sustainability. To finance this agri-transformation program, the Industrial Finance Corporation of Mauritius Limited, IFCM, will offer a preferential lease of 2.5% to cooperatives for the purchase of mini tractors and leasing facilities of up to 25 million rupees with an annual interest rate of 3.5%. An integrated modern agricultural morcellement scheme on a plot of land exceeding 2 acres will be introduced to encourage innovative agricultural practices with the following incentives: an 8-year tax holiday on income and an exemption from payment of registration duty. In addition, developers under the scheme will be allowed to convert up to 15% of that land for residential or commercial use, and be exempted from payment of land conversion tax. An 8-year income tax holiday will be granted to planters engaged in sustainable agricultural practices registered with the Economic Development Board. Mr. Speaker, sir, in the last budget, several initiatives were announced to support sugarcane planters, including a framework for biomass, to support small sugarcane planters and ensure a fair and equitable distribution of proceeds from sugarcane cultivation. Government will maintain the minimum guaranteed price of 25,000 rupees per ton for planters, ₹25,000 per ton for planters producing up to 60 tons of sugar. Continue to pay the premium to the Sugar Insurance Fund Board in respect of those producing less than 60 tons of sugar, and waive cess in respect of crop 2022. To encourage sugar planters to renew some 10,000 hectares of crops, the grant under the cane replantation scheme will be increased by 43%, from 35,000 rupees to 50,000 rupees per ton. A cane replantation revolving fund will be introduced by the DBM to provide loans at an annual preferential rate of 2.5%. Those who want to bring back abandoned land into cultivation will also be eligible under this scheme. Mr. Speaker, sir, the livestock industry has an important role in our food security strategy for meat and dairy production locally. We'll support our farmers and breeders to produce more across the island. To this end, the DBM will invest 200 million rupees in 5 livestock zones at Onyeka, Salazi, Mardalbert, Petit Merlot, and ex-Tibet Road. We are further increasing the subsidy on animal feed to 10 rupees per kilogram. The cattle breeding scheme is being extended to importers of cattle. A grant of 15,000 rupees will be provided to breeders to purchase cows of less than 1 year. Under the zero budget natural farming scheme, 100,000 rupees will be provided to cooperatives for the purchase of cows and construction of cow sheds. We're also providing a 30% subsidy on the purchase of equipment for production of locally produced pasteurized milk. For pig breeders, 5 million is provided for the extension of artificial insemination facilities, and 15 million rupees is earmarked for setting up of waste treatment facilities at Bassin-Requin and Saint-Martin. We will introduce a good farming scheme for cooperatives for the purchase of goods and constructions of sheds up to a maximum of 200,000 rupees. Finally, a salon d'agriculture will be organized to promote motion agriculture. Mr. Speaker, sir, 2/3 of our country's fish consumption are today imported. We have the potential to drastically reduce our reliance on imports. For this to happen, we need to optimize on our resources. We are providing 10 million rupees for an additional hatchery at the Albion Fisheries and Research Center to increase the production of fingerlings by 100,000 annually, and 35 million rupees to carry out a stock assessment on the Saya de Mala Bank to identify small pelagic species for local consumption, to improve the safety of fishes and surveillance in our exclusive economic zone. With the support of the EU, we acquired 2,000 handheld VHF radios to be used by artisanal fishers and 2 rapid intervention patrol boats for safer navigation in lagoons. Marker buoys will be installed in some 50 boat passages. The boat passage at Le Monde will be extended, and further dredging will be conducted at Grand River Southeast, Maibo, and Suyak. 7 fish aggregating devices will be replaced around the island. The grant for acquisition of semi-industrial fishing vessels by registered cooperatives is being increased from 4 million rupees to 6 million rupees. These cooperatives will also benefit from leasing facilities offered by the IFCM Limited. 6 ballast will be made available for the production of crabs and shrimps. Furthermore, 4 sites will be allocated for off-lagoon aquaculture, and legislation will be amended accordingly. A new concession framework will be introduced in the Maritime Zones Act to allow for in-lagoon pearl oyster and algae culture. For small fishers, 500 additional fisherman cards will be issued. 5,000 rupees per fisher will be provided for the purchase of materials to construct fish traps, and financial assistance for the purchase of hooks will be maintained. We are increasing the daily bad weather allowance for fishers from 475 rupees to 575 rupees. Mr. Speaker, sir, this year we are mobilizing some 3 billion rupees for our farmers, planters, breeders, and fishers to achieve our objectives of food security in the medium term. The manufacturing sector, the largest contributor to GDP, is central in our plan for a stronger and more resilient future. The sector recovery has been one of the fastest, with a growth rate of nearly 11% in 2021. And exports of goods increased by 17%. We'll continue to support the expansion of this sector by giving due recognition to locally manufactured products and encouraging exports of motion goods. Mr. Speaker, sir, first, to promote locally manufactured products and encourage a buy local culture, the virtual exhibition platform for locally manufactured goods at the EDB will be operational as from October 2022. A semaine de l'industrie locale will be organized to promote the savoir-faire of motion enterprises, and EDB will identify products to obtain geographical indication and its label. Second, Mr. Speaker, sir, I'm announcing a series of measures to maintain the incredible momentum in exports. The freight rebate scheme and the trade promotion and marketing scheme will be extended up to June 2023. Furthermore, SME will benefit from the freight rebate scheme on the South African market. Exporting agents of locally manufactured products will also be eligible to the trade promotion and marketing scheme. We'll maintain the 50% reduction in port charges on export. Moreover, the SME International Fairs Refund Scheme will be open to free port operators. To support our industries in exporting to the region, we will charter 2 regional feeder vessels. Phase 1, La Route de l'Inde, will start in September 2022 and service the South Asian route, including India, Sri Lanka, and Seychelles. Phase 2, La Route de l'Afrique orientale, will be launched in November 2022 and service the Eastern African countries, notably Madagascar, Tanzania, and Kenya. Our country, Mr. Speaker, sir, is currently engaged in significant investment for the construction of social housing, drains, and other infrastructure projects. In addition, we have a private sector investment pipeline of more than 200 billion rupees under facilitation by the EDB. The industry needs to reinforce its capacity and improve the skills of its workforce. To this end, a construction industry training council is being set up. Moreover, the Construction Industry Development Board, CIDB, and the Building Control Advisory Council will be merged into the Construction Industry Authority. To improve competitiveness of local construction companies, public contracts below 20 million rupees will be reserved for small contractors. Government will restate the margin of preference for local contractors, and DBM Limited will offer a loan facility of up to 25 million rupees at a concessional rate of 3.5% per annum. The ADB will also introduce a transit-oriented scheme to create vibrant, walkable, and mixed-use areas within a radius of 100 meters of metro stations. Under this scheme, property developers will be exempted from payment of registration duty on lease or acquisition of land to develop an approved project, and also will be eligible for accelerated annual allowance on green technology equipment expenditure. Mr. Speaker, sir, the tourism is fast recovering. We are confident that we will achieve pre-pandemic figures in the tourism sector in the next financial year, that is nearly 1.4 million tourists. Both the average spending per tourist and the length of stay in Mauritius have increased. This shows that Mauritius is and remains a destination of choice for travelers. To support the recovery, we are increasing the marketing budget of the MTPA by more than 10%, from 360 million rupees to 400 million rupees, to consolidate existing markets, tap into new opportunities and niche markets. To accommodate ultra-high net worth passengers, personalized facilities will be offered by Airport Holding Limited. The services will comprise handling of private jets and transfers from the airport to hotels by helicopter. To support hotels in their refurbishment, the 50% lease rent waiver is being extended up to June 2023. Events with a minimum of 50 participants will be eligible to benefit from VAT refund under the meetings, incentives, conferences and exhibitions scheme. 150 million rupees is being provided over the next 3 years for the renovation of the SSR Botanical Garden. We want everyone arriving in Mauritius to be given the opportunity to discover our unique products. Thus, all incoming passengers of Air Mauritius will receive a voucher of 200 rupees to be spent on arrival at the Mauritius duty-free paradise. For the future of the sector, a 10-year blueprint will be prepared. Mr. Speaker, sir, for 2 years now, the arts and culture industry has been practically at a halt. We need to support and reignite our incredible arts, culture, and historical institutions as they reopen. It is an industry which brings together our sense of identity and unites us as one nation. To promote creativity and encourage more artistic projects, new schemes will be introduced, namely an artist incubator scheme to nurture emerging talents, a scheme to facilitate the participation of local talents in international award ceremonies, and a scheme for local artists to participate in international competitions. For the professional development of the creative sector, 20 million rupees is being earmarked for the setting up of a national arts center, including a recording studio at Renewable Petit Raphaël. The Centre de Formation Artistique will be revamped, and the Serge Constantin Theatre and the Pointe Cano Open Air Theatre will be modernized. The Côte d'Or National Sports Complex will be equipped to host major concerts by local and international artists. An expression of interest will be launched to encourage private operators to renovate, maintain, and operate historical buildings and landmarks, including the Château Benares and the Citadel on a commercial basis. In the context of the 55th anniversary of the independence, 12 Fêtes Nationales will be organized throughout the year 2023 at Cupid, Trou-de-Douce, Mayberg, Souillac, Flic-en-Flac, Rosil, Saint-Pierre, Flac, Goodlands, Triolet, Port-Maturin, and Port-Louis. The first edition of the Mauritius Arts Expo will be organized this year. Government is providing a grant of 5,000 rupees to all registered artists displaying at the Mauritius Arts Expo. Finally, to promote Mauritian literature, government will adopt a public policy to purchase local works published in the year and make them accessible to Mauritians in public libraries. Mr. Speaker, sir, the financial services industry has demonstrated strong resilience in the face of the crisis with a growth rate of 4.2% last year. Furthermore, we are out of the FATF, EU and UK list. We need to build on this momentum. To this end, the Bank of Mauritius, together with the Bank of China, will launch a regional renminbi clearing center this year. The Bank of Mauritius will collaborate with the National Payments Corporation of India for the issuance of RuPay cards and Indian QR code in Mauritius. A national payment card will be introduced for customers, and the Financial Services Commission will revamp its framework to enable reinsurance companies to set up operations in Mauritius. To continue the overhauling of the financial services sector, the government will adopt its legislative framework to converge the domestic and the global business regime. As part of our actions against tax-based erosion and profit shifting, we are introducing a domestic minimum top-up tax to ensure that resident companies of large multinationals are taxed at a minimum rate of 15%. On the occasion of the 55th anniversary of the Bank of Mauritius, a 5-year Emerald Jubilee bond will be issued at an annual interest rate of 4%. To cater for specialist trainings in the sector, the Financial Services Institute will become an awarding body. Moreover, the Bank of Mauritius and the FSC will renew their one-year graduate training program on AML, targeting 100 graduates with a monthly stipend of 15,000 rupees. The Financial Crime Commission will be set up to ensure an effective coordination in the fight against financial crimes. Mr. Speaker, sir, the ICT sector has been one of the few sectors which has registered a positive growth rate in the last 2 years despite the pandemic. The sector has known a renewed dynamism with major multinational companies relocating to Mauritius and creating job opportunities. The Digital Industries Academy will provide training to 1,000 individuals in data communications, 5G, cloud computing, AI, and cybersecurity as from July 2022. Moreover, the Digital Industries Academy will set up a DIA incubator for high-end ICT product development. It will partner with telco providers, banks, and international players to provide mentoring and financing to 50 incubatees. I'm providing 15 million rupees for a second connection for the government online center to ensure continuous access in government e-services. To continue the public service digitalization strategy, a number of services will be offered online, including application for certificate of character, payment of road traffic fines, and application for social benefits. Finally, to maintain a continuous dynamism and expansion of the sector, a 5-year blueprint will be devised. Mr. Speaker, sir, small and medium businesses are the lifeblood of our economy and a powerhouse of growth and employment. This is why, during the last 2 years, government has provided its full support to SMEs through the wage assistance scheme and financing the additional remuneration. Moreover, through the DBM and the IFCM, some 4.7 billion rupees have been approved as loans and equity financing to more than 12,000 SMEs. Government will spare no efforts to nurture the growth of small and medium businesses. To this end, the SME Act will be amended to review the definition of SMEs. Micro-enterprise from a turnover of 2 million rupees to 10 million rupees. Small enterprise from a turnover above 10 million rupees and up to 30 million rupees. And medium enterprise from a turnover above 30 million rupees and up to 100 million rupees. All companies with a turnover of up to 100 million rupees will henceforth be categorized as SMEs instead of 50 million rupees currently. A mid-market enterprise with a turnover up to 250 million rupees will now be included as a new category under the SME Act. This will effectively enable some 142,000 enterprises to benefit from improved access to government support programs and financing. Mr. Speaker, sir, the DBM will extend the SME interest-free loan scheme and the COVID-19 special support scheme up to June 2023. To consolidate the DBM network, 3 new branches at Saint-Pierre, Rivière-des-Anguilles, and Bamboo will be opened by end of 2022. DBM is allocating 5 billion rupees to support SMEs, mid-market enterprises, and entrepreneurs. And the is setting up a venture capital fund of 5 billion rupees targeting SMEs and mid-market enterprises. For the cooperative sector, we are providing a 50% grant up to 500,000 rupees for the purchase of recycling equipment and transportation vehicle for local suppliers. Mr. Speaker, sir, this budget ensures that Mauritius remains amongst the most business-friendly countries in the world. For businesses to invest, train, recruit, and innovate, it will henceforth not cost a single rupee to start a business and incorporate a company in Mauritius. The Bank of Mauritius will ensure that a bank account can be opened within 1 week, be it for an individual or a business. An interministerial committee chaired by the Prime Minister will oversee the streamlining of licenses and permits in the construction, tourism, healthcare, and logistics sectors. Moreover, we'll introduce a business regulatory reform bill as an apex legislation on business facilitation. We'll support businesses by enabling them to recruit talents under the Young Professional Occupation Permit. And we will enable entrepreneurs and students completing their studies to benefit from the premium visa. Holders of residence permits will be given the opportunity upon applications to acquire residential property of a minimum of 350,000 USD outside the existing schemes, subject to a 10% contribution made to the Solidarity Fund. A committee chaired by the Prime Minister will examine the applications on a monthly basis. To continue building on the silver economy strategy to attract more foreign retirees in Mauritius, the EDB will organize the first edition of the Mauritius International Silver Economy Festival. We support businesses as they invest in the training and skilling of 3,000 of our youth, men and women through an increased monthly stipend of 8,000 rupees for those under the National Apprenticeship Program and the National Skills Development Program, and 10,000 rupees for the Graduate Training for Employment scheme. And will encourage women getting back into the job market by doubling the period of placement to 2 years. Mr. Speaker, sir, our second strategy is to accelerate our country's transition into a model of sustainable and inclusive development. Sustainable growth involves a cleaner, greener, and a more climate-resilient country. Accelerating the transition to a more secure and cleaner home-ground energy supply is imperative. To meet our current energy consumption, we need a capacity of 761 megawatts. This is expected to increase to 1,196 megawatts by 2030. We currently have 165 megawatts of capacity from renewable sources. To achieve our target of 60% energy from renewable sources by 2030, we need an additional 435 megawatts from renewable sources. I'm therefore announcing a green transformation package to increase our share of electricity supply from local renewable sources. Hybrid renewable energy facilities will be set up in partnership with private promoters for a total capacity of 140 megawatts. CB is investing in an 8 megawatt solar PV farm at Onyeka by February 2023 to increase its capacity from 2 megawatt to 10 megawatt. A 1 megawatt solar farm will be commissioned at Grenade in Rodrigues. DBM Energy Limited will implement solar PV projects at its industrial buildings as well as other public buildings for a total capacity of 6.2 megawatt. Airports Mauritius Limited will invest in a 14 megawatt solar photovoltaic system as part of the greening of the SSR International Airport and the surrounding airport area. To allow the CEB to accommodate more renewable energy on its grid, a 20 megawatt battery energy storage system will be installed at Amore. To encourage production and supply of renewable energy by households and non-commercial entities, 5,000 solar PV kits with a total capacity of 9 megawatt will be installed on rooftops of households, religious bodies, NGOs, and charitable institutions. And a loan facility of up to 250,000 rupees will be made available by the DBM to domestic consumers at a concessional rate of 2% per annum to finance the acquisition of solar PV systems. Individuals and companies will also be allowed to generate renewable energy up to a maximum of 150% of their annual requirement. The CEB will purchase electricity under the Medium Scale Distributed Generation Scheme, MSDG, at a feed-in tariff of 4 rupee 20 cents per kilowatt hour. The existing rental fee for production meters of renewable energy schemes is also being waived. Mr. Speaker, sir, the industrial sector is one of the largest energy consumers on the island, amounting to approximately 28% of total energy usage. Government is committed to ensure carbon neutrality in the sector by 2030. To this end, a renewable energy transition framework is being implemented through the generation of up to 150% of existing usage by industrial users. The provision of an agreed feed-in tariff of 4 rupee 20 cents for industrial users by the CEB, allowing the setting up of both on-site and off-site PV installations by industries, and the introduction of a carbon neutral loan scheme by the IFCM over 7 years at a preferential rate of 3%. In total, Mr. Speaker, sir, will produce an additional 200 megawatt from renewable sources by 2025, thus increasing our share of energy from renewable mix to 40%. This program is expected to generate at least 20 billion rupees of private investment over the next 3 years. A committee will be chaired by the Prime Minister to fast-track the implementation of renewable energy projects to attain this objective. Mr. Speaker, sir, we'll further reduce our dependence on imports of petroleum products, decarbonize the land transport system, and accelerate the EV transition. The Metro Express will be fully operational on the Port Louis Tropic Corridor, as well as between Rosehill and Redri before the end of this year. Metro Express Limited will implement photovoltaic farms at its Richelieu depot at Berkeley, as well as at Eben Recreational Park to cater for its electricity needs. To further promote the electrification of the public transport system, the IFCM will provide leasing facilities of 3% per annum over 10 years to transport operators to acquire electric vehicles and charging infrastructure. In addition, Mr. Speaker, sir, 200 electric buses will be acquired to renew half of the fleet of the National Transport Corporation. As As from the next financial year, the bus modernization scheme will only apply to electric buses. Moreover, IFCM will provide concessionary leasing at 3.5% per annum to companies renewing their company fleet to electric only. DBM will provide a 0.5% loan of up to 3 million rupees to taxis and van operators over a period of 7 years for the purchase of electric vehicles. As from 1st July 2022, all hybrid and electric vehicles will be duty-free. We are I will repeat, as from 1st July 2022, all hybrid and electric vehicles will be duty-free. We are going the extra mile by introducing a negative excise duty scheme of 10% for the purchase of electric vehicles by individuals up to a maximum of 200,000 rupees. Every 10% increase, Mr. Speaker, sir, in energy efficiency enables us to save 1 billion rupees in imports. To this end, the Energy Efficiency Management Office will introduce mandatory minimum energy performance standards for air conditioners and extend the mandatory energy labeling to television sets and tumble dryers. Moreover, local authorities will be required to replace 10% of street lighting in secondary roads by standalone electric lamps annually. Mr. Speaker, sir, the cleaning and greening of Mauritius are truly a nationwide effort. In advancing this green transition, will secure a more sustainable future for ourselves and for our children. This is indeed why the National Environment Cleaning Agency has been set up under the aegis of the Prime Minister's Office to develop our national cleaning strategy. I'm allocating 1 billion rupees to the cleanup and embellishment program, as well as for the rehabilitation of beaches, lagoons, and coral reefs, including completion of the beach rehabilitation works at Pointe-aux-Feuilles to Grand Sac, Port, Bois des Amourettes, and Petit Sable to Anson-Chez. Upgrading of access and parking areas at Pomponnet and Pointe-au-Piment public beaches, implementation of beach management plans at Montchoisy, Flic-en-Flac, La Prairie, Bellemare, and Grand Bay, installation of solar lightings at beaches, extension of the mangroves plantation and restoration program, acquisition of 2 new tipper lorries for effective waste collection and disposal, and cleaning and embellishment of 120 public sites, including places of worship, children's playgrounds, and health trucks. I'm also earmarking 400 million rupees to undertake landslide rehabilitation works across the island. Mr. Speaker, sir, to promote locally manufactured products from recycled materials, a tipping fee will be paid to local recyclers per ton of waste, excluding used tires and PET bottles. And a margin of preference will be provided for products manufactured from recycled materials. To improve resource recovery from recyclers, an additional déchetterie will be set up for disposal of waste oils, construction and demolition waste, amongst others. A pilot composting unit and a sorting unit will be developed for the separation of dry and wet waste resources for sale to registered recyclers on a PPP basis. A framework will be introduced to encourage composting of green waste from households, markets, parks and gardens. And a scrapyard for vehicles declared total loss and beyond their economic life will be created on a PPP basis. To further enhance our preparedness to disasters, 90 million rupees will be provided over the next 3 years for the purchase of oil spill combat equipment. Speaker, sir, last year we came up with an unprecedented flood management program to provide for effective drainage system in identified flood-prone areas. Over the last summer month, the island continued to face major floods in different regions. Our thoughts are with those who have lost their homes, their belongings, and their businesses. Nothing can overcome the personal pain and loss of so many emotions. But we will stand with these communities to build resilience to flash floods and other unpredictable weather conditions. I'm earmarking an amount of 3.8 billion rupees in the next financial year to continue the National Flood Management Program, including including 61 million rupees at Pointe de Sable, Paille, Canal d'Ayou, Résidence Richelieu, Bain des Dames, and Cassé. 91 million rupees at Résidence Rosemont, Valley Pito, Boulevard Rivals, Pouce Street, Trente-Bar, Lord Kirchner, and Raoul Rivetti Borges. 66 million rupees at Canal Anglais, Rochebois, Route Nicolai, and Cornulov. 157 million rupees at Sainte-Croix, Vallée des Prêtres, Rivière-Latanier, and Inter-Rouge. At Cité-Romain, Morcellement-Goulamali, and Morcellement-Affray. 306 million rupees at Pamplemousse, Pointe-au-Piment, Arsenal, Calbas, Cité Nelson Mandela, and Beach-Tombeau. 69 million rupees at Deville, Petit Raffray, and Poudre d'Or Village. 293 million rupees at La Pépiton, Plaine des Papayes, Petite Julie, Poudre d'Or Hamlet, L'Amitié, and Rivière du Rempart. 281 million rupees at Cantorel, L'Agrément Saint-Pierre, Nouvelle Dagotière, Telfer Moka, La Laura Malanga, Dagotière, Quartier Militaire, and L'Avenir. 120 million rupees at Pink Pigeon, Queen Victoria, in Poste de Flac, at Cité Hibiscus, à Limon and Débarcadère, and at La Source, Centre de Flac. 179 million rupees at Bramstan, Sans Souci, Road Montagne Blanche, and Clémentia. 501 million rupees at Bambou-Virieux, Rivière des Créoles, Ange-Jonché, Petit Bel-Air, Grand Sable, Rosebelle, Gros-Billot, Rivière-la-Chaux, Saint-Hubert, Saint-Hilaire, Nouvelle-France, and Providence. 316 million rupees at Maïbourg, Trois Boutiques, Plaine-Magnan, Mortabat, Bois d'Oiseau, and Ville-Noire. 285 million rupees at Grandbois, La Flora, Cantagore, L'Escalier, Nia Camiselle, Rivière des Anguilles, Dispensary Road, Candiac, Ruisseau Parès, Cambanane, Bois-Chéri, and Gaillac. 150 million rupees at Chemin Grenier, Nia Bosquet Road, Ernest Lemaire, Morcellement-Chazal, Ficanflac, and Dapri Bambou. 200 million rupees in Bacqua, at Solferino, and La Caverne, and Confoucro. 117 million rupees at Malakoff, Sadali, La Marie, Junction, Abbé Laval, and Lazare Streets, and Charles Reynaud. 218 million rupees at Cupid, Robinson, Forestside, and Ocoulé. 101 million rupees in Caprabon, Arsodna, Avenue des Ibis, Palma, Rémi Ollier Road, La Louise, Résidence Beau Séjour, 61 million rupees at Plaisance, Haji Alaman Street, Avenue Malak, Avenue Huguenin, Berthaud Avenue, Avenue Gina, Old Arab Town, Rochebrune and Montroche. 96 million rupees at Résidence des Chevêques, Barclay and Cormandel, and 132 million rupees in Rodrigue at Port-Mathurin, Baie Malgache, Port Sud-Est, and Anse Allée.